On this edition for Sunday, December 13th, a watershed moment towards combating COVID-19 as the first vaccine shipments are rolled out. Jeff Greenfield on the Electoral College vote. And CARE. After decades of providing aid overseas, it's now turning to need in its own backyard.
Free lunch for the people.
Next on PBS NewsHour Weekend.
My beautiful people.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, the Anderson Family Fund, Bernard and Denise Schwartz, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, the JPB Foundation, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg, the Leonard and Norma Chlorfine Foundation, Charles Rosenblum. We try to live in the moment to not miss what's right in front of us. At Mutual of America, we believe taking care of tomorrow can help you make the most of today. Mutual of America Financial Group, retirement services and investments.
For 25 years, Consumer Cellular has been offering no-contract wireless plans designed to help people do more of what they like. Our U.S.-based customer service team can help find a plan that fits you. To learn more, visit consumercellular.tv.
Additional support has been provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. The first shipments of the COVID-19 vaccine approved for use in the United States are expected to arrive at 145 sites tomorrow. At the Pfizer manufacturing plant in Michigan this morning, employees cheered as the first boxes of the super chilled vaccine were loaded onto trucks. CDC Director Robert Redfield signed off on the Pfizer vaccine last night after the CDC's advisory committee approved it for people 16 or older.
They recommend the intervention of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine.
The committee also recommended healthcare workers and long-term care residents get first priority to receive the vaccine. The Trump administration's chief scientific advisor for Operation Warp Speed, Moncef Slaoui, said he expects nearly a third of the U.S. population will be vaccinated by the end of March.
We hope to have immunized 100 million people, which would be the long-term care facility people, the elderly people with comorbidities, the first-line workers, the healthcare workers. It's about 120 million people. We will have immunized 100 million people by the first quarter of 2021.
The FDA is scheduled to discuss approval of a second vaccine developed by Moderna on Thursday. Confirmed cases of the coronavirus continue to rise to record levels in the U.S. According to the New York Times, there are now nearly 6 times as many cases each day and 3 times as many deaths as there were 3 months ago. Tomorrow, the Electoral College vote will bring President-elect Joe Biden one step closer to final congressional approval and his inauguration as president on January 20th. But the current president continues to say he won without any evidence and consistent losses in court to legal challenges of the outcome. Last night, some of President Trump's supporters, many belonging to the neo-fascist group Proud Boys, and counter-protesters, including members of Antifa, fought in the streets of Washington, D.C. The number of protesters was much smaller than at last month's demonstrations. Police said there were more than 20 arrests, and 2 police officers and 6 protesters were injured. For more on the president's continued baseless claims of victory, the Electoral College, and the transition to a new presidential administration, special correspondent Jeff Greenfield joins us now from Santa Barbara. All right, Jeff, here we are. The president still contends that he did not lose this election, that it was rigged against him with no evidence. Tomorrow, 538 electors are supposed to meet. That is supposed to be the ultimate decision on making Joe Biden our next president by January 20th. Any last-minute twists?
Once they cast their votes, there's one more step yet to go, and that is on January 6th, the new Congress meets in joint session to formally accept the state-by-state returns. If one member of the House and one member of the Senate objects to any state's report, the Congress retreats to their respective chambers, they debate for 2 hours and vote. Now, given a Democratic House and enough Republican senators who already said enough, the outcome is certain. Although with Mike Pence as the presiding officer, vice president, there could be further glitches. But I do really think that it formally, January 6th should end it, and Biden will be officially the president-elect.
At that point, do Republicans say, fine, Joe Biden's the next president?
On Earth One, I would say that that's right. But you now have, just today, a CBS News poll showed that something like 82% of Republicans or Trump voters think Biden was not legitimately elected, and the majority of Trump voters wants the Congress to keep fighting. So what you have here is a situation where we had 126 members of the House, Republicans, a majority of Republican state attorneys general asked the Supreme Court to invalidate millions of votes and literally turn those states over to the state legislatures so that Trump could be reelected. Under those circumstances, I don't see any reason to think that you're going to find okay, it's over, let's all cooperate.
So why? Why did that happen?
You now have deep in the Republican Party a belief that expanding the right to vote, making it easier to vote, cost Trump the election. The mail-in ballots, the way you could correct signature verification problems, more drop-off places. It was the argument in the Supreme Court by the Texas Attorney General that only the state legislatures could do that election officials exceeded their power. And what I think you're going to see is Republicans being very, very careful that in the next election, they're going to make it harder to vote. Because I think there's a belief, as I said, that it was too easy to vote this time. And the people who took advantage of that were by and large Democratic voters, and Republican state legislatures. They're just going to change the laws as much as they can, and their power is pretty complete, to just tighten the ability to vote.
Well, where does this put the popular vote in the grand scheme of things?
From 1952 to 1988, Republicans won the popular vote, I think 7 out of 10 times. Since 1988, they've only won it once. It does seem that the Republican Party now believes it cannot win the popular vote, and it has to turn to the Electoral College and those close battleground states and tighter voting laws to have a chance at the presidency again. It's quite unusual in American politics, and if I may say so, quite disheartening.
Just this week, we also saw a tension between Congress and the president over defense spending reauthorization. Why is this significant?
Well, it's significant because this is the one time when the Congress may override a Trump veto. It hasn't happened in 4 years. Trump is saying, I'm going to veto this bill unless you change the law that limits liability of major telecommunications companies like Google and Facebook. And I want the bill vetoed because I don't like the idea of changing the names of military installations named after Confederates. By and large, there are solid majorities always in Congress, support the troops, get this bill passed so that we're not left defenseless. And I think this would be the one time, particularly since Trump is pretty much certain to not be president very longer, that the Republicans in Congress are willing to say, okay, on this one, we're not going along with you.
Jeff Greenfield joining us from Santa Barbara. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Howard.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen pledged to continue Brexit deal talks today as the end of the year and Britain's exit from the European Union looms. Today marked the deadline set by both sides to decide whether to continue negotiations. In a joint statement, Johnson and von der Leyen said it would be, quote, responsible at this point to go the extra mile. Neither side expressed optimism that a free trade agreement would be created. Johnson said the most likely outcome is no deal, a scenario that is projected to cause major damage to the economies of Britain and the 27 member countries of the European Union. A recently created peace deal between Azerbaijan and Armenia could be in jeopardy after multiple skirmishes broke out this weekend. Soldiers marched through the streets of Azerbaijan's capital of Baku on Thursday, celebrating the country's November reclamation of much of Nagorno-Karabakh region, which had been under Armenian control since 1994. Russian peacekeepers reported a clash on Friday involving automatic weapons. It was the first recorded incident since the peace deal was finalized on November 10th, following 44 days of fighting. The Armenian government also accused the Azerbaijani government for an attack yesterday, but Azerbaijan blamed Armenia for the violence and threatened to destroy Armenia if there are more clashes. For more on the COVID vaccine rollout and the latest national and international news, visit pbs.org/newshour. Some of the biggest COVID-19 outbreaks in the U.S. are in the prisons and jails that house more than 2 million people. Most states agree that vulnerable populations should get top priority as new vaccines are distributed. But should the nation's incarcerated be included on that list? NewsHour Weekend Zachary Green spoke with two experts on the topic, Jamiles Lartey, staff writer for the Marshall Project, and Colette Peters, director of the Oregon Department of Corrections and a trustee of the Council on Criminal Justice.
Jamiles, I wanted to start with you. As of now, how many incarcerated people have contracted COVID-19, and how does the rate of COVID infections in jails and prisons compare with the rest of the country?
So we are rounding the corner on 250,000 folks in state prisons and the federal prison system having contracted the coronavirus. This week, there are at least 21,400 cases, an increase of about 40% from the previous high water mark. So the crisis is clearly getting worse in prisons the same way that it's getting worse virtually everywhere else in this country. There have been close to 1,700 deaths so far in this pandemic in U.S. prisons.
Director Peters, you oversee all of Oregon's correctional facilities. How has the coronavirus been making its way into your state's prisons, and what are the challenges that you're facing in protecting the health of incarcerated people and the staff who work there?
So first of all, prisons were not made with public health in mind. They were made to be as efficient as possible and house as many people as possible. And so social distancing really is almost impossible inside of a prison. Probably the most important thing that we did in order to comply with the social distancing requirement is we shut our prisons down immediately to anybody but essential personnel in order to prevent the flow of human beings from the community coming inside. That being said, we still have almost 4,000 corrections employees in Oregon coming in and out of our institutions every day and living in our communities.
Jamiles, can you give us a sense of what different states are doing to protect their incarcerated populations and the staff working inside jails and prisons?
The efforts have been fairly scattershot. There have been attempts in some places to let out people who were nearing the end of their sentences, people deemed not a threat to the community, older incarcerated people. There have been, some efforts to try to be creative with space and find ways to allow more social distancing than would otherwise be possible in prisons. But, as Director Peters mentioned, it is not a system that was designed to allow for things like social distancing, for kind of overzealous washing of hands and protecting your personal air. I mean, that's just the two are just a little bit incompatible.
Director Peters, you serve on the National Commission on COVID-19 and Criminal Justice. When and how does the commission recommend distributing a vaccine once it comes out to incarcerated populations?
Our final recommendations from the Commission on COVID will be finalized and rolled out this Monday. But I can tell you, in addition to prioritizing the nation's over 400,000 correctional officers and corrections professionals for the vaccine, we are recommending that the adults who are in custody also are prioritized in the 1B category. That recommendation really focuses on our prisons similarly to hospitals. And as was just mentioned, we have, unfortunately, many vulnerable people who are incarcerated. In Oregon, we have the fourth largest elderly population incarcerated in the country. And with that comes chronic disease. These individuals often are 10 years older biologically than their chronological age because of lack of preventative care, lifestyle choices, etc. And so these really are some of our most vulnerable people in the United States.
Jamiles, you've been writing about this. How are states prioritizing the distribution of COVID-19 vaccines to jails and prisons? Are there any states that are planning on getting a vaccine to incarcerated people early?
Yeah, in an analysis compiled by both the COVID Prison Project and my publication, the Marshall Project, we found that in at least 6 states, incarcerated people will be among the phase 1 recipients of the vaccine, and that in many more, they were included in phase 2 of generally 3 phases, with phase 3 being kind of all the rest. Most states have looked at incarcerated folks in that stage B of after healthcare workers and before the general public. in that phase that includes essential workers and people with underlying health conditions in the general population.
Director Peters, can you tell us where do incarcerated people fall in order of priority in Oregon's distribution plan?
Yeah, I'm pleased to share that they are in the category 1B. They have been approved for prioritization. And so we will begin the planning for that vaccination, both for our corrections professionals and the adults in custody. I think it's important for people to understand that while we have engaged in mass incarceration, these are our community members. These are our brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles who have been incarcerated. And over 95% of them are coming back to our communities. And do you want them coming back having felt cared for during the midst of a pandemic or not? I know what kind of neighbor I want. I want one that feels like they were cared for, both from a public safety perspective and a public health perspective during their incarceration.
Research has also shown that beyond the obvious risk to the people who live there, prisons and jails and detention centers can and will, and we believe have served to incubate and seed the virus back into the general community, since employees, as we discussed, move between the institutions and their homes. So even if you are controlling the pandemic in the broader society, if you have outbreaks roiling and going unchecked in these facilities, that will extend the pandemic and prevent us from getting it under control in a public health sense.
Colette Peters, Director of Oregon's Department of Corrections, and Jamiles Lartey of the Marshall Project, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
The coronavirus pandemic has laid bare the shortcomings of America's public health and anti-poverty programs, creating a new need for humanitarian relief as a result. A reflection of that New World Order is the CARE organization, which was created after World War II to help needy Europeans. Now, for the first time in its 75-year history, it is providing that assistance to needy Americans. Special correspondent Mike Saray reports from San Francisco. The story is part of our ongoing series, Chasing the Dream.
This San Francisco food truck is the latest interpretation of a holiday care package.
Care package for me was always something your parents sent you in college.
Since the start of the COVID crisis, Christian Huang's nonprofit food truck called Mobilized Love has been serving free hot meals to some of San Francisco's most food insecure neighborhoods, like Rita Dunn's.
Usually we see people all over the globe in Africa starving. Now we're starving right here in America.
Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to hand you this check for $1,500 for this food package for the starving in Europe.
The original care package was a box of Army surplus rations Americans could buy in 1945 and have shipped overseas to the millions of needy and displaced Europeans after World War II. Over the past 75 years, variations on the care package theme have become part of our vernacular and evolved into a variety of humanitarian assistance programs CARE has been providing to over 100 countries. For the first time in CARE's 75-year history, Americans are now on the receiving end.
I think in many ways it has been humbling for us here in the U.S. I think, unfortunately, sometimes there is a perspective that these problems exist everywhere else.
Ryan Shepard heads up CARE's newly created U.S. initiatives and recent pivot from just providing assistance globally to acting local as well.
The reality is that we have our own challenges, and I think the pandemic has revealed how many of those challenges are shared with other places that we're active.
COVID did not cause food insecurity in this country, but it has dramatically increased the numbers of people requiring food assistance. It's estimated 10% of Americans were food insecure before the pandemic. Now, Northwestern University's research is saying that number is likely to double.
Normally, the breakfast and lunch that the kids were getting in school, they're not getting it now. So, yeah, it's very important that these groups come out and help.
Rita Dunn is one of hundreds of community organizers around the country. CARE is matching up with local nonprofits, like Christian Huang's food truck, to get food to neighborhoods made all the more food insecure by the COVID crisis.
What made it really special for us was that it made our work essential, and it made us safe and operable during a time where a lot of nonprofits had to shut down because they couldn't bring people inside to the brick and mortar space. We were well positioned to be safe and outdoors and continue our services.
CARE USA is leveraging its domestic fundraising and foreign aid experience to help local charities in San Francisco and several other metropolitan areas distribute food as well as personal hygiene supplies and assistance to essential workers.
The secret sauce of all of this comes down to the local partnerships. None of this would be possible without the organizations that have been on the front lines, that understand the communities, and have been doing this work for many years and in many instances.
My people, my beautiful people. Free lunch for the real people, for the community.
Damian Posey, a local legend here in San Francisco's Bayview district, is helping CARE and Christian Wong's food truck connect with the city's neediest neighborhoods. His Us for Us network of teenage volunteers extends the food truck's reach by hand-delivering hot meals to people cut off by COVID from other types of public assistance and food sources, and living in the city's food deserts, where fresh food has always been scarce and relatively distant.
There are 4 building complexes, over 1,000 residents, a lot of families, a lot of elderly, a lot of shut-in residents. And then when I try to think of myself as a family in this neighborhood, there's not one restaurant, one grocery store. That's pretty bad.
Families, working poor, undocumented residents are by far the most that are impacted compared to the rest of the residents in San Francisco.
Born and raised in India, Priti Rani was well aware of CARE's humanitarian work abroad, but never thought she would be involved with it since she migrated to the U.S. Now, as the director of the City of San Francisco's Nutrition Services and Food Insecurity Task Force, she's relying on CARE's national agreements with DoorDash and other delivery services to get food to families that don't have access to city services like they had before the COVID shutdowns.
That connection to a delivery system like that really helped us get food to people that were most in need.
Like other major food banks around the country, the San Francisco Marin Food Bank has seen the number of families relying on its services nearly double due to COVID, which has also reduced the numbers of its mostly volunteer distribution network, according to its executive director, Paul Ash.
It takes the food bank to do the larger scale distributions, and other organizations have a great niche to fill in terms of reaching populations that we may not be able to find. We don't have a food shortage problem. We have a problem of organizing our political system and organizing our government and organizing our nonprofit and charities. We have new organizations coming to us and saying, we can help if you can provide the food, and we're doing that. So it really takes a lot of hands.
But that is likely to change next month in the absence of a new economic stimulus package to continue funding USDA food programs that account for nearly half of his food bank's supplies, which this neighborhood pop-up distribution point depends on.
Is this food truck, this laundry truck, these deliveries, is this the new CARE package?
I believe so. I mean, so our opinion is that the CARE package really has evolved to being more about kind of the spirit and the generosity that we might share with one another. The CARE package doesn't have to be in a brown cardboard box anymore. It's community members getting together and providing food parcels, providing gift cards for folks who may be on the front lines or who may be facing financial challenge.
Christian Wong wasn't sure about how the first CARE package started, but he's certain that his offerings of Thai chicken curry is better, faster, and hotter than the original Army surplus rations that started the tradition.
Enjoy it.
This is PBS NewsHour Weekend, Sunday.
Finally, if you stay up late and find a spot without bright city lights, you may see a rare meteor shower sometime between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. tonight. The Geminids are pieces of dust and debris entering Earth's atmosphere from faraway asteroids and present no danger, just a light show from between 120 and 160 meteors per hour. If you want to watch from indoors, check for online feeds from NASA and other space watching groups. That's all for this edition of PBS NewsHour Weekend. For the latest news updates, visit pbs.org/newshour. I'm Hari Srinivasan. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy and have a good night.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Sue and Edgar Wachenheim III, the Anderson Family Fund, Bernard and Denise Schwartz, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, the JPB Foundation, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg, the Leonard and Norma Chlorfine Foundation, Charles Rosenblum. We try to live in the moment to not miss what's right in front of us. At Mutual of America, we believe taking care of tomorrow can help you make the most of today. Mutual of America Financial Group, retirement services and investments. Additional support has been provided by Consumer Cellular and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
You're watching PBS.